Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajat Ali, and for our very kind viewers who have emailed Danielle asking if I'm going to die, I appreciate it. I'm alive. I'm exhausted. It was a brutal week. I realized I've been overworking, and my body told me yesterday maybe I should slow down after my plane was yet again delayed, and I did a red eye to Chicago to help an organization. And so I have heard my parents, Danielle, my wife, and all of you, I will slow down, but it's tough to slow down, Danielle,
I know.
when, the Trump administration has gone full fascist, is the world's worst I told you so. Everything that you and I have been saying on the show as of this week, anyone who's been paying attention to us the past 2 weeks, told you so. Take them literally and seriously, because now we have Donald Trump, instead of confronting pedophiles, like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, instead of, making sure there's no violent insurrection, instead of taking on the number one domestic terror threat for the past 10 years, which is, and we have the receipts, right-wing extremism, instead of taking on mass shooting, isn't it better to crack down on those elderly white hipsters in Portland, Danielle?
That are knitting and drinking matcha. It's, I wish that we were not in this space of I told you so. And I want people to really understand, Wash and I never wanted to be right. This is not something that like you're satisfied in. Like,
No.
this is gratifying for
No.
us to have been spending the last 3-4 years talking about what happens when you give sociopaths and people who have fascistic, desire power, right? Like that this is what would happen. No one wants this and nobody feels good about being right. At the end of the day, though, what we are seeing and what we continue to say is a mass escalation of Donald Trump's militarization over this country. And it is because the Epstein won't go away.
Nope.
It doesn't matter how much he tweets in all caps about it. It doesn't matter how much he tries to distract. And we know that all of the moves that he's making in Portland, in Washington, D.C., and all of these places are, in fact, distractions. It doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. It doesn't mean that it's not violent. But it does mean that this is what Donald Trump does when he feels like he is backed up against the wall. So case in point, here is the post that he put up a couple of days ago, which is just absolutely wild.
Yep.
And Mehdi Hassan says it so well. If there was a time not to normalize Trump's authoritarian fever dreams, this is it. This should be impeachable. War-ravaged Portland? He's insane and insanely power hungry. The script is set. Call an imaginary group a terror group and then send in the troops. Wash.
I mean, look, folks, we're going to talk about it a lot because the weekend gave us so many examples. It's all projection all the time. We have said on this show before, and for those who don't know, we have said that Trump is looking for his Reichstag fire. Now, what's the Reichstag fire? Again, for those who don't know, even though we've talked about it on this show, in 1933, the Reichstag parliament building in Germany burnt down. At the time, they convicted a communist. However, at that time, and even since then, people are like, nah, seems kind of iffy. Could be a false flag operation. Regardless, the Nazis used that moment of crisis to consolidate power. The Reichstag fire was used to declare martial law, suspend civil liberties, crush all opposition. And guess who then becomes dictator? Voila. We've had multiple Reichstag fires in the past 2 weeks. The Charlie Kirk murder was supposed to be the Reichstag fire, and they almost got away with it. But what did they do? They overreached. And it was Kimmel. Going after rich, white, wealthy, popular Kimmel was the step too far. And because they tried to make Charlie Kirk and the greatest thing since Jesus, more and more normies like my wife read about Charlie Kirk. She had no idea, Danielle. And she's like, my God, this man was so hateful and cruel. So now they're like, shit. The Charlie Kirk moment was supposed to be a Reichstag fire. That didn't work. So now they're looking. They're like, Antifa. We're going to declare Antifa a terrorist organization. Venezuela. Chicago. You know what? Portland. And so now, instead of releasing the Epstein files, instead of talking about, mass shootings, which literally over the weekend, folks, we're going to get into it. There's so many, we had to condense it just to 3. All right. Instead of talking about that, what they are desperately looking to do, and we said this on the show, he's a cornered rat.
Yep.
He's negative double digits on the economy. Economy is looking terrible, folks.
Yep.
Epstein files, over 80% of Americans want it released. Terrible. His health, not looking good. Overreach on everything. And Danielle, it was just released today. We didn't get into the rundown.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've said, guess who's behind the extrajudicial assassinations of Venezuelans? Stephen Miller, the shadow president. It's his operation. It came out today that he's the one leading it. He's the one that did it.
Why?
Because he is obsessed, according to Olivia Troy, who will be joining the Left Hook on Wednesday. Olivia Troy, when she was with Stephen Miller, she said on our show, by the way, also, folks, if you're watching, subscribe to Danielle's Damn Digest on Substack and My Left Hook. She said that Stephen Miller was obsessed with bombing Mexico and Latin American countries. Obsessed. She worked with the Trump administration, the first administration, then she quit when she realized they're all psychopaths. But she said he wanted to bomb Mexico. You know, he blames these invaders for bringing in drugs, and he wants to punish them. So the person who's the shadow president, who's in charge of that whole Venezuela operation, and also it was the Wall Street Journal, remember, Danielle, that said that Stephen Miller was the one who unleashed ICE agents at Home Depots and 7-Elevens in LA. And guess what, folks? Signalgate. Remember Signalgate? I remember the person who gave the green light from the White House and overruled J.D. Vance, who said maybe we shouldn't, bomb Yemen, was Stephen Miller.
This is all very fascinating. Because I have several questions. I mean, honestly, I really do have several questions as to how he rose above J.D. Vance, I mean, J.D. Vance is a teal puppet, but how do you think that Stephen Miller created such a space for himself when there's such a fight inside of MAGA to be in Donald Trump's ear?
I've been on Stephen Miller, and anyone who wants to come to our shows to talk about Stephen Miller, I've had them on. One of the best books, the definitive book on Stephen Miller, is by Jean Guerrero, fantastic journalist who wrote the book Hate Monger. And I asked her this question, and she said that first and foremost, this guy's a true believer, folks. That's why I always say Stephen Miller is one of the most dangerous people on earth, because now officially he is the most powerful unelected person on earth, Danielle, number one. Him and Russell Vought are the shadow presidents, number two. The way he's stuck around is he's kept his head down. And to Danielle's point, out of all the people in the last 10 years, the only person who stuck around for 10 years is Stephen Miller. So Donald Trump sees him as his most loyal reek. He knows how to pick and choose his battles, and he keeps his head down, and he promotes Donald Trump. He knows how to work Donald Trump. And folks, the reason why he's so scary is Gene and others who have followed Stephen Miller. And also there was a Rolling Stone article that came out recently and interviewed the co-author. They had insider information. He sleeps, dreams, and wakes up with a white nationalist agenda. He's on top of everyone. He outworks them. He out-hustles them. He yells at the interns. Like, this has been his wet dream since he was in 9th grade, Danielle. He is a true white nationalist believer. He will not stop. His wife even admitted that he gets up in the morning and practices his speeches in front of the mirror. Hitler also used to do that, by the way. And speaking about Hitler, people say, why do you always use the word fascist, and why do you guys use the word Hitler? Well, it was not us who called Trump Hitler. It was J.D. Vance, and he rewarded him. You know who also called him Hitler? RFK. But Stephen Miller at Charlie Kirk's propaganda rally, I refuse to call it a memorial, he did the Goebbels 1932 speech. The storm is coming. Literally put Goebbels' speech next to what Stephen Miller said. It's almost tit for tat, Danielle. This is the guy who is now the shadow president, unleashing ICE across America, terrorizing Americans, and according to today's reporting, is the guy behind these extrajudicial assassinations of Venezuelans. Sorry, you asked me a question. I just want to connect the dots.
I think that it's really important to give context, and here we have, right? This is the memorandum that went out with regard to the National Guard in Portland. Right now, the city of Portland is suing Donald Trump to stop the 200 or plus troops from putting boots on the ground there. So they are suing. And what you will see now, I believe, Waj, is that as he goes around cherry picking these states, that the states are reacting quicker than they did when we started in LA, right? So you have to think back to February when we're to February and March, where Donald Trump is talking about going into to California, going into LA. It happens, and it's almost like this shock. Now we know what the plan, like, he's been telling us, he's been showing these examples, and now these states are suing very quickly. I want to go to talk about this because this is a story, folks, that was absolutely fucking missed last week, because you had the dribbling out of the who is listed, who is named, who are some of the names in the Epstein file. You got Donald Trump escalating in Oregon. You have the news coming out about Venezuela. You have shootings that are taking place. And so this is a story. Trump's NSPM 7 labels common beliefs as terrorism indicators. This is from Glenn Kleppenstein. With the mainstream media distracted by the made-for-TV drama of James Comey's indictment, Trump has signed a little notice national security directive identifying anti-Christian, anti-American views as indicators of radical left violence. Called National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, it's being referred to as NSPM 7 by administration insiders. This is the first time in American history that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism. Trump's Homeland Security advisor, Stephen Miller, referring to the issuance. He goes on, it's hard to overstate how much different NSPM 7 is from the over 200 executive orders Trump has frantically signed since coming back into office. An executive order publicly lays out the course of day-to-day federal government operations. Ken writes this, whereas a national security directive is a sweeping policy decree for the defense, foreign policy, intelligence, and law enforcement apparatus. National security directives are often secret, but in the case of Trump administration chose to publish NSPM 1 because he can't shut the fuck up, right? So that's really one of the reasons. Only the 7th since he's come into office. Just to give you an idea, previous national security directives have been controversial, even politically earth-shaking. In 1980, for example, Jimmy Carter signed the top secret Presidential Directive 59, directing new nuclear warfighting policies that persisted until the end of the Cold War. When revealed, PD 59 caused a public furor. So Donald Trump is openly stating that he is going to war with thought, right? With left-wing thought. Donald Trump is going to war with. They went on so far as to say that even expressions of anti-capitalism was also an indicator for left-wing radicalism. And this is what they are stomping out. Just so folks are clear, this is what all of these makeshift camps are for. You start with the low-hanging fruit of undocumented people and saying that they're dangerous. And then because you use the word danger, war, terrorism, then you get to label whomever, however, and lock them up. Waj, your thoughts?
Absolutely. Well, Stay Gold says I sound like a drunken, slurring sailor. I've never drank before. So, how's everyone else? Is my mic okay? I thought it was all right, but you all let me know.
Fine.
Stay Gold is like, you sound terrible. I'm sorry, Stay Gold. Danielle sounds fine, but his mic is really bad. All right, you all let me know. If not, we'll try to fix it. But this is dangerous stuff, folks. This is fascism. This is what the Nazis did. They identify all fascist regimes, right? It's in group, out group, good versus evil. And speaking about good versus evil, and speaking about the cosmic type of analogy, also another big piece of news is that Donald Trump posted that Democrats are evil. Evil, Danielle. And remember that JD Vance is now kind of adorning himself as this new Christian nationalist. He is also given a blurb for this book called Unhuman, talking about, how the rest of us, the liberals, are unhuman, devilish,
Yep.
right? And speaking about,
Yep.
the reason why, folks, you could laugh at this, but you shouldn't, these kind of framing, devil, evil, sinful, first and foremost, is dehumanizing. Secondly, what it does is leans into a Christian nationalist framing. Third of all, what it does is with the QAnon conspiracy that has already radicalized the base, Danielle, they see the rest of us as what? Devil worshiping child pedophiles
Yep.
who kidnap, kill children, and drink the blood. So that's pretty bad, folks. If you dehumanize like more than half of your fellow Americans as evil, and you say that liberal ideas are synonymous with devil worship and evil and sin and communism and yada, 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 what happens? I remember, I've said this anecdote before, I'll say it again. Someone said I'm drunk. Was just drunk on 4chan. I am not on 4chan. I'm just exhausted. But other people are saying we sound real as
We
F.
sound
Thank you,
fine.
Maureen.
Yeah.
The really scary part is this. I was in Auschwitz. I was in Poland several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And with a multiracial group of Americans, we went and visited, right? Multiracial, multi-religious group. And we were doing a tour through Auschwitz. And this was during Trump won. And we were just talking about the shit show that was Trump won. And we're specifically talking about how he's separating kids. And our tour guide, Danielle, just kind of was listening to our conversation, leaned in and said, that's how it begins. We're like, excuse me? It always begins with language.
Yep.
They first dehumanize you through language. That's what happened here. And that then sets the stage for a fascist regime to do what? They identify you as a problem. And then what happens? They identify a solution.
Correct. And so, where are we in terms of the solution piece? Tomorrow, Donald Trump has allowed his alleged alcoholic Secretary of Defense, because I refuse to call it the other bullshit name that they've created, to call in admirals and generals from their posts, their critical and important posts around the world, to come for a meeting at Quantico. And guess who has decided to join them? Donald Trump. I posted a video yesterday on YouTube. If you have not seen it, it's up now. I posted a short. I also posted that same video all over social media, and it has gotten 40,000 plus views. Here is the point. My belief, Waj, this is a loyalty test. Donald Trump is calling in these admirals and these generals for them to swear allegiance to him and to MAGA. If, in fact, they do not, I believe they will be removed. Danielle, why do you say that? Let me say why. Because last week, at the end of the week, there were 20 plus FBI agents who were removed from their post. Why? Because photos of them from 2020 kneeling at George Floyd protests were used as indicators that they are not loyal to Donald Trump and to the mission of white nationalism and white supremacy in this country. And they have been summarily fired. Now, following that, out of nowhere, Pete Hegseth calls in all of the generals and admirals from around the world to one place, which, by the way, is stupid and dangerous. I did not say that. People who are formerly in the military have said that. And Donald Trump is deciding to join. I guarantee you, and I've said this time and time again, there is going to be major escalation before the end of this year.
Yep.
Donald Trump,
yep.
Stephen Miller, they are setting the stage for the militarized takeover by naming, and they have all now the paperwork is in place. You name those that are ideologically opposed to your sociopathy as the problem, as the terrorists. You round up those people on suspicion of what? Terrorism. You go after the funders, right? Which is why they have gone after George Soros.
Yep.
One of the number one funders of progressive democratic institutions, organizations, etc. You label him as a terrorist, you label the funders as a terrorist, you shut down those organizations, and it's not enough to shut them down or to quell free speech. You have got to criminalize them. You've got to throw them away and lock away and throw them away and throw away the key. In the meantime, you're also able, by virtue of the label of terrorists, to suspend what? Any constitutional rights and protections that you have. That, dear friends, is the goal. Waj, please, by all means, tell me I'm wrong.
You're right. Trust the evidence of your eyes and ears, folks. What more do you need to see? Every single story that we've discussed so far in the first, 20 minutes of this program would be a 5-alarm fire in any other administration. Can you imagine if Joe Biden or President Barack Hussein Obama, my Muslim brother, were to unilaterally send the National Guard or the military to Portland, threaten to send it against Chicago, send masked armed ICE agents to crack black and brown skulls, literally have ICE agents tackle Senator Padilla, a senator, a Democratic senator, literally arrest Republicans, say, who were inspecting an ICE agency. That happened in New York, right? On camera, throw women on the ground, a 7-year-old grandfather on the ground, right? Openly label anti-liberal thought as indicators of terrorism. Unilaterally just bomb Venezuela, right? And by the way, Democrats have also done this, but people have said, hey, that's wrong. What would happen? You'd say this is a fascist regime. And speaking about fascism, yes, Donald Trump called Biden, and Stephen Miller called Biden and Democrats fascists, right? I think Trump used the word Goebbels administration. So all of this is what you'd call projection, because they get really, 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 really mad when you call them racist. They get really, 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 really mad when you say, why do you call them Nazis? And I'm like, well, because you literally quote Hitler. Well, how dare you call us Hitler? Well, because JD Vance called Trump Hitler and he was rewarded. You're quoting Goebbels' speech. You're promoting Nazi conspiracy theories about Haitians eating dogs and pets, right? And so what they want to do is crush dissent, crush the enemy, crush anyone who stands up to them. And I think, Danielle, going back to an earlier point, overreach. The Jimmy Kimmel moment was the overreach. Now, I wish it would have been the kidnapping of, Muslim and Palestinian students and activists. That's just me. Rumeysa Öztürk, the 30-year-old Turkish grad student who was abducted in broad daylight by masked armed ICE agents for co-writing an op-ed. I thought that would have got Democrats pissed off, but they let it go. Mahmoud Khalil, the 200 plus El Salvadoran men, including Kilmar Abrego Garcia, right? And let's be honest, Danielle, we keep the receipts here. We don't Ezra Klein the situation too soon. We were telling folks when they went after transgender folks, when they went after pro-Palestinian activists, when they went after immigrants, they're going to come after you. We've been saying it since the beginning of the administration. And to your point about people finally waking up, they didn't wake up. Democrats went along initially with the Republicans. I keep the receipts. Lake and Riley Act could have only passed with Democratic support in the House and the Senate. They went on with it. Gavin Newsom on his podcast platformed Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon and agreed with them. They threw transgender people under the bus. Alyssa Slotkin threw the woke under the bus. A mouse fart when it came to Mahmoud Khalil and pro-Palestinian activists. Let's be honest, folks. It wasn't until Chris Van Hollen, who's been really good, folks. I mean, I hope he makes I hope he throws his hat in the ring for 2028. I mean, he's been solid on Palestine, on the immigrants. He went by himself and confronted Bukele in El Salvador and said, I ain't going to leave until you give me proof of life of Abrego Kilmar Garcia. That's what kept it in the news, Danielle. And once there's any sort of resistance, what happens? Because Kilmar Abrego Garcia was in the news, folks, for a couple of days, Donald Trump went negative double digits on that because people said, whoa. And the whole time, Daniel, let's be honest, we'll be okay. They'll just go after them, the blacks, the Muslims, the Palestinians, the undocumented. We'll be okay. We're wealthy. We're white. We're the real American. And what did you and I say, Daniel? Fascists come for everyone.
Everyone. I mean,
and now I've gone to Portland. Have you gone to Portland? I love Portland. Portland's hella white. Portland's white. It has a bookstore. People are nice. Portland, Daniel. It's in Portland. They're in Portland. And I was in Chicago, folks. That anarchic hellhole, the seventh layer of hell, Chicago, where all of us were in O'Hare Airport just watching the game before our flight. Oh my God, I was ducking bullets left and right. The reason I'm just kidding, by the way, for those who don't know. But the reason why he still hasn't gone to Chicago is because the mayor and the governor did what? They saw what happened in California, and they're like, "Nah, you're gonna do this. We're gonna threaten you." So now they're a little bit afraid. So they're like, "Shit, we can't go after Chicago because they friggin' fought back." Portland. This is what you get for being complicit. This is what you get for bending the knee. This is what you get, ABC. ABC, the reason why he went after Jimmy Kimmel is you effing paid him off instead of defending George Stephanopoulos.
He knew that he could. He said, you gave me $16 million. This one seems more lucrative. And just so, again, we're very clear about what we're talking about. 250 days to get to military occupation of U.S. cities, indicting political enemies, mass detention centers, over 1,250 missing detainees from that alligator Auschwitz, suppression and denial of our First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendment rights. And then they clutch their pearls when you say fascism. And just so we're all clear about the definition, fascism, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. Where is the discrepancy here? Where's the issue with what we have experienced? Again, I want to go back in 250 days to get to all of these things that have happened. And was last week the indictment of his first political enemy. And you know that there will be more to come. And I continue to say, I say this on the Danielle Moody Show every evening, there are 1,200 fucking men that are missing. And when I say missing, I mean, I don't think they're alive anymore. They did not even bother to put together a Google Excel document to catalog where these people are, what their emergency information was, the names of their lawyers, anything like that. Because when you are in the system, your lawyers, your family are supposed to be able to follow you, and they cut those people off. And so what has happened to them? Where are they? We have no fucking idea. Do you think that that's headline news? No, it's not, because of who those people are and what their skin tone is. But the moment that they came for the rich, white, famous man, then everyone wanted to mobilize. And I'm saying I appreciate the mobilization around Jimmy Kimmel. But the fact of the matter is that this mobilization needed to have happened 250 fucking days ago.
In addition to the men who have disappeared, folks, we have citizens who have been deported. Citizens. And I try to keep receipts. Those include children, a cancer survivor, and a girl who had stage 4 cancer and was in America receiving treatment. And Tom Homan, concrete in human form, the border czar, who just last week, and now no one cares about it, was
$50,000 in cash, folks.
Tell him.
You have this motherfucker referring to undocumented people as criminals, and he took a $50,000 bribe to fast track government contracts, right? So that they could scoop up as many people as possible, $50,000. But James Comey is being indicted for lying. This motherfucker has a black duffel bag of cash, It's on video, it's on audio, and it was done under Merrick Garland's guise, but we didn't learn about it until a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we learned about it 2 weeks ago, and then last week when he was on Fox, Laura Ingraham asked him about it, and he said, "I didn't do anything illegal," which means he didn't deny it. And the reason why I brought up Tom Homan is Tom Homan openly said, folks, he told you that's why you got to take him literally and seriously. They said this time around, is Donald Trump going to separate families? And he goes, "We're not going to separate families. The kids are going to go with the parents." So they have gotten rid of citizen children, disappeared them, kicked them out. That alone should be, Danielle, a 5-alarm fire. Speaking about citizenship, we didn't have this on the rundown. There's 2 more pieces of news that should be 5-alarm fires, but it's not even in the main news anymore. Donald Trump over the weekend, what did he ask for? He's asking the Supreme Court to end birthright citizenship. Oh, that should be leading news as well. But friggin', we got like literally fires in Michigan. We got mass shootings everywhere in North Carolina. We got, friggin' the military on Portland. All of this could have been avoided if this friggin' dumb, racist country, self-destructive country had voted for a black Indian woman, but no. And then also, I want to remind y'all, Danielle, this came out, it wasn't in the rundown, but we kept saying they're going to go after they're going to go after marriage equality. And people are like, no, that's a step too far. I'm like, they already went after Roe v. Wade. And now Clarence Thomas, the most miserable man on earth, openly saying now, he rarely gives public statements, openly is saying, precedent might not determine cases on the upcoming Supreme Court docket.
Good. So I hope that they go after his fucking marriage too.
Yeah, so that's what I tweeted. I said, that means Loving v. Virginia? V. Virginia?
I hope I hope it goes after his. I hope that it goes after his interracial marriage too.
No, I have a feeling that won't get touched for some reason. Even
because you got JD Vance up at and his marriage. You got Mitch McConnell and his marriage. You got Clarence Thomas. I can run down the fucking list. Right? Give me a break.
Some dark humor, but I'm gonna go there. I would not be surprised if JD Vance, if Donald Trump dies and JD Vance tries to take the mantle.
You said it.
JD Vance is going to drop kick Usha Vance and try to get with Erica Kirk. He'll drop kick his brown children all the way to India if it means he can get power. But I think Ginny has a greater lockdown on Clarence. I think he'll find a way to skirt around it. So they'll be perfectly fine, folks, upending precedent because they're originalists. And they'll find a way to get rid of marriage equality. They will, because to them it's Play-Doh. But notice
you don't even have to find a way, Waj. You don't even have to find a way. They're just going to do it. Like, it is not as if the Supreme Court sits down and these members actually listen to the open statements and they're listening with open ears and justice is actually blind. They've made the decision when they have agreed to hear the cases because they know what they're going to overturn. We need to stop talking about this fucking court as if it is a legitimate body.
It is not. It is not.
It is not. Right? They do not believe in the rule of law. They believe in white supremacy, and miss me with the bullshit around Clarence Thomas, because not all skin folk are kinfolk. And we know that, and we're told that over and over and over again.
And also, folks, again,
in all sorts of forms.
And remember, they said, "Oh, they'll never touch Roe. They'll never touch Roe. They'll never touch Roe," until they did. And if you think they won't touch marriage equality, I don't know what to say anymore, Danielle. Like, it's like, fool me once, fool me twice. Like, what more do you need to see, Danielle? What more do you need to see?
Well, here's the thing that people should see, because I just want you to be clear about the fact that James Comey is the first. He is not going to be the last that is going to be indicted. This is a list, and I encourage everyone to blow it up on their screen. This is part of the list of the White House attack target list of who they're going after. And it includes people like Governor Tim Walz, Governor Newsom, Governor Pritzker, all of them.
No, but check it out, Danielle, if I may. Sorry, look at the second one, as Danielle mentioned, Governor Newsom. I'll read it for you. Why is Governor Newsom an enemy? He likened ICE to secret police, calling them authoritarian and proclaiming a right to push back. Governor Tim Walz smeared ICE as the modern day Gestapo. Representative Robin Kelly smeared ICE as Gestapo. Pritzker claimed the country's becoming Nazi Germany because ICE is grabbing people off the street. This and they're after Governor Newsom because he says Stephen Miller is a fascist. We'll talk about it in a second. But folks, it's all projection. So they get to call us evil, un-American, terrorists, Antifa. But if we actually call them out for what they're doing, then we become the enemies.
Yeah. So I pulled that up because what they are getting ready to do, right? Like, and this is the thing. And when people are like, well, Danielle, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? You do what you can with the platform that you have and the community that you're in. But this is what is coming. Before the end of this year, this country will be militarized. You position the military in certain places so that they don't have to get there. They're already there and they just amp up, right? The generals and the admirals are not coming to the United States for a fucking holiday. They are coming for a loyalty test, right? You have now the former FBI agent, former FBI director indicted. That is not going to be the last. It is the softening of the blow so that when you start to see indictments of Hillary Clinton, of Barack Obama, of Joe Biden, of all of these people, and you're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. The law will protect us. Remember who the law is. We
That's
are
right.
dealing with the Roberts fucking MAGAfied court. There
That's right.
is no law. So when somebody asked in the comments, question, can we vote our way out of this? I've been saying no, we cannot vote our way out of this. You don't vote your way out of fascism. We are headed towards revolution. That is facts. So it's either you are going to decide to suppress and subjugate and kiss the ring and pray that one day the door knocking doesn't come for you, which it always does, or you fight back, because there is absolutely no in between. We missed the in between when we had the opportunity last year in the election. That was our last vote to say no to Donald Trump, no to Stephen Miller, no to fascism, no to authoritarianism. And 77 million Americans said, let's roll the fucking dice. And so we are here. We are not having an election in 2026. We are not having an election in 2028. I hate to be the bearer of reality, but I need people to pull their heads out of their asses and stop wringing their hands and start to think about, what can I do to keep myself as safe as possible? What can I do to link arms inside of my community? Because they are coming for all of us. If they can come for Jimmy Kimmel, and the people decide to push back against that because, oh my God, a white, rich, wealthy man, and now they can come for James Comey, who is disliked on both sides, they are going to come for everyone. And you need to decide what side of this you are going to be on, because everybody has a role.
Look, no notes on what you said. My only edit would be that if Trump doesn't last because he's an old man and he's not well, then I think we might have a chance. And these local elections are huge where Democrats are winning. However, and we're going to talk about this, especially with the Ta-Nehisi Ezra Klein conversation, someone already mentioned it, is simply back blue no matter who ain't going to cut it, folks. I'm going to repeat this. Back blue no matter who ain't going to cut it. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats, what did he do over the weekend? Praised Eric Adams.
Oh my God.
Still hasn't embraced Mamdani. Senator Schumer, well, we're hoping we can convince the Republicans to do the right thing when it comes to shutting down the government. These people are not made for this moment. They're not built for this fight. And the reason for that is they're still beholden to restoration. They're beholden to the old way of doing things, where they slap each other on the back. They get funded by AIPAC and corporate donors. Unfettered capitalism is king. They, eat at the trough. They keep the rest of us, in check. And they think, oh, we'll just do a redo. That's where you get the third wave. That's where you get the abundance movement. That's where you get the Matt Iglesiases and the Tim Millers and the Ezra Kleins, right? That's where you get the feckless Democratic leadership. That's where you get the Elisa Slotkins. That's where you get them literally sending Bill Clinton and Representative Clyburn to support Cuomo instead of embracing Mamdani. They want restoration. We want reformation. They don't want radical change. They want the status quo. And if you all think that they're going to lift you up, where have you been for the past 8 months? Where were they for the transgender community? Where were they for undocumented immigrants? Where were they for Palestinians? Where were they for pro-Palestinian activists? Where have they been for the workers? Where are they for Mamdani? It's right in front of you, folks. And everyone might say, oh, you and Danielle are crazy. Again, bringing it back full circle for the people who are joining us late. Thank you so much. There's about 1,200 people on my Substack, about 1,600 people watching on YouTube and Twitter. Folks, Danielle and I get no joy whatsoever from the world's worst I told you so. We said we take Trump literally and seriously. What's the one quote I have always brought up? The quote that Donald Trump said in October: I will unleash the National Guard in military against the enemy from within. I said, who used the word enemy from within? He again quotes Hitler. He said it. He told you so. FBI Director Kash Patel, who has no experience in law enforcement, openly went on Steve Bannon's podcast and said that there was an enemies list. He shared the enemies list. So once you see the crackdown, once you see the purge, once you see them going after, using the Attorney General's office to go after all the critics, once you see Stephen Miller literally fulfilling his white nationalist wet dream, why are you surprised? And what we're telling you, as of today, what's the date? September 29th. Open your eyes. Just open them. Literally, Donald Trump has made Antifa a terrorist organization. What does that mean? No one knows. He has extrajudicially killed Venezuelans. They have not released any evidence whatsoever that there were drug traffickers. The New York Times said that once they saw planes following them, this boat that could have just been immigrants, Danielle, was turning back. They killed them. He unilaterally said there were terrorists. So just plug in the dots. If the president now can unilaterally just declare anybody a terrorist group and then follows it up with extrajudicial capital punishment and kills them, Danielle, what can they do to the rest of us whom they have, as we have just shared today, designated as being violent extremists or part of a left-wing terrorist organization? What can they do to the rest of us?
Let me just say, if alarm bells are not going off in everyone's body as we are running down this list, what can they do to the rest of us? Anything that they fucking want.
There you go.
Right? It looks like Auschwitz. It looks like concentration camps. It looks like disappearing people, which they already have. It looks like, I wonder if anybody will talk about the 1,200 people missing. Oh, no? Okay, well, let's make that 2,400. Let's make that 100,000. Let's make that 1,000,000. And let's keep going. Folks, again, no joy comes from this at all. And frankly, as time goes on, talking about this in the way that we do is becoming increasingly dangerous to do.
That's right.
I shared with you one enemies list. There are others that have voices that they are looking to extinguish and make examples of. Began with Colbert, Kimmel's back. It will continue to go until there is no opposition, there is no dissent, everyone is in prison, and slavery is reinstituted, and the oligarchs are running supreme. There are no jobs, the economy is broken, but you know what? They're still able to make money off the backs of prisoners. This is where this is headed. And then on top of that, just because I want to get to the...
Well, can we show this? We have to show this. I know we have a lot, but the audacity. Look at folks. They don't care about reality. They don't care about facts. As Danielle said, they'll do what they want to do. Just look at this. The last 10, this goes back 30 years. All right. We've been talking about this a lot. The last 30 years, especially the last 10 years, the GOAT, the MJ of domestic terrorism in terms of incidents, violence, and casualties. Danielle, tell them what it is. It's not left-wing terrorism. Tell them the gray and the yellow.
So the gray, oh wait, I got to remove this. Sorry, because I can't see. So this is what is funny to me. The gray is right-wing terrorism. The gray, folks. The yellow or the gold, depending on your screen, is left-wing terrorism. Do you see how much gray? And then there's like little caps of yellow. So just to be clear,
And that's
you can.
Can you go back real quick? Just real quick. Abigail Jackson, for those who don't know, is the White House press secretary. Democrats calling your political opponents Nazis has consequences. Look, and White House press secretary can't read graphs good.
Right.
She posted this, folks.
Right. So now you tell them what John Horgan.
All right, so I've been following John Horgan for a while. Very sharp. John Horgan is an actual terrorism expert, violent extremism expert. There is a study that was released by CSIS that, F Atlantic and F Axios, F all these establishment rags, without context, they ran these really, as all of this is happening, folks, over the past few days, they ran headlines, salacious headlines. For the first time ever, left-wing terrorism outpaces right-wing terrorism. You can imagine how that went over with MAGA, especially as Stephen Miller is going after Antifa, and especially as there's friggin' military in Portland, especially as they're calling us evil. Oh, they ate it up. They did not give any context in the headlines to this one study that is funded by a lot of right-wing groups, CSIS. And in that study, folks, actual experts like John Horgan are like, really? Oh, let me investigate. So John Horgan has a thread, and I want to read this thread. The study that Atlantic and Axios just did it yesterday, just shameless. These people, Danielle, think that they'll be safe. Yep. Axios and Atlantic thinks they'll be safe. As they're literally cracking down on left-wing terrorism, they decide to run those two headlines. F them both. But I digress, and I've written for the Atlantic in the past. John Horgan says this. The study that they link to is trying to assert two claims before offering potential explanations. One, that left-wing attacks are on the rise, and two, that attacks from violent far-right are decreasing in frequency. Let's consider each in turn. The authors write, quote, from 1994 through 2000, there was an average of 0.6 left-wing incidents annually. A rather strange way to report things, so basically, less than a single incident occurring annually. The claim of a rise in left-wing attacks is based, Danielle, on 5 events, one of which is the Mangione shooting, classified here as left-wing terrorist attack. The authors further consider the Kirk murder as an example of a left-wing terrorist attack. They say that it seems likely. Now, John didn't say this because it was a given. None of those attacks, either Tyler Robinson or Luigi Mangione, are left-wing.
Right.
Furthermore, this study that they cite ends in July. The month right now is September. Okay. So of those 5, one of them is they made into a left-wing attack, Luigi Mangione. So 4. The central contention that, quote, 2025 marks the first time in more than 30 years, even that alone, that left-wing attacks outnumber those from the far right only holds true within a very narrow condition, especially in terms of how violence from the far right is considered, coded, and counted. And for those who don't know, let's go back. For those who don't know, it is often ignored, especially by the government. They quash it. On a serious error in data, in my view, undermines their central claim. The authors have chosen to exclude, Danielle, contemporary school shootings, many of which now include elements of right-wing sentiment and ideological influence. Messy? Yes. Complicated? You bet. But present? Absolutely. And before we give you examples from this weekend, I'm going to give you 2 examples that this study did not incorporate. The shooting in Atlanta in the summer against the CDC, Trump voter. The same day Charlie Kirk was assassinated by Tyler Robinson, who was not a left-wing, in neighboring Denver, there was a high school shooting by a 16-year-old white boy, Danielle. Do you want to guess where and what radicalized him? What ideology? What websites?
Charlie Kirk's website?
No, white supremacist violence.
Oh, white
supremacist. The 16-year-old boy was influenced by white supremacist conspiracy theories and anti-Semitism. 16-year-old white boy with a gun who then shot up his high school. And then, Danielle, just because the heavens decided, let's not be on the nose. Can you tell us what happened over this weekend?
I mean, I'm just going to run through it really quickly because I do want to wrap up with the New York Times piece. Michigan, shooting and fire. 4 people, at least 4 people were killed, and the Church of Latter-day Saints was set on fire intentionally. The attack occurred when a man drove a car into the church building, set fire to it, and shot worshipers, the authorities said. 8 other people were wounded. One of them was in critical condition. The gunman died after confrontation with officers. Investigators had not yet determined a motive. The gunman, Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40
Lefty.
years old.
Antifa.
40 years old, who is also went by the name Jake, used an assault-style rifle in the shooting. Here he is, immediately after the Michigan shooting. Trump implied the shooter was an anti-Christian leftist. We now know the background of the shooter. Here he is, wearing a "Make Liberals Cry Again" shirt. If that is not enough, here's his fucking home with a Trump Vance sticker. If you blow it up, right under the American flag is a Trump Vance campaign flag that is there. So that was Michigan. Then you have Texas. Texas man accused of threatening to shoot up a pride parade to pay them back for taking out Charlie Kirk. Now, where would he have gotten that idea that anybody who would be involved in a pride parade on the left ideological spectrum would be involved in the killing of Charlie Kirk? I wonder. This is the man who was accused of plotting to shoot up the pride parade. 42 years old, Texas man, now facing federal charges. I'm sure he'll end up in Trump's cabinet. This is what this gentleman said. Fuck their parade. I say we lock and load and pay them back for taking out Charlie Kirk. Come on, bro. Let's go hunting fairies.
And why is he saying they?
And
I want to make a quick connection right before you move on to the last one. For the last 2.5 weeks, even after it was revealed that it was Tyler Robinson, allegedly a 22-year-old white man from a Christian conservative family who was apolitical, killed Charlie Kirk, the entirety of the right wing keep using the word they and them, blaming the radical left, literally living in an upside down world. And we kept saying that's dangerous because that might actually incite people to take revenge against they and them, which is the rest of us. And can you just go back one more time and look at the guy? What did he say, Danielle? FK their parade. I say we lock and load and pay them back for taking out Charlie Kirk, even though it was one man, Tyler Robinson, whom Governor Cox said was, quote, one of us. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make that connection.
And here we go yet again. North Carolina. The gunman who shot up a restaurant in North Carolina had filed a lawsuit claiming a church was behind a civil conspiracy masterminded by who? The LGBTQ community and white supremacist pedophiles to kill him because he's a straight man. He filed a similar suit against a medical center, accusing it of being a part of a conspiracy launched by LGBTQ white supremacists. Like, whoa, that's a fucking group. Here's the guy. Again.
Looks like an immigrant El Salvadoran socialist Muslim transgender person, right, Daniel?
Anyone want to see the connections between all of these shootings that killed multiple people across multiple states, where they're aligned, where they're getting their hate for the LGBTQ community from, where they're being incited by, but in the meantime, don't use the word fascist because evidently that's what causes violence, not actually pointing unjustifiably without evidence at groups of people and saying that they're the cause of violence, right? So this is where I want us to end today. And I think that this is important because over the weekend, Ezra Klein invited Ta-Nehisi Coates on his show, the Ezra Klein Show. And if you've been listening to the Danielle Moody Show and listening to Democracy-ish, you know that we spoke about both of the pieces that went up with regard to Charlie Kirk's murder. Ezra Klein wrote a piece in the New York Times that said Charlie Kirk did politics the right way. Ta-Nehisi Coates took to Vanity Fair and absolutely dismantled Ezra Klein's piece line by line. These two people are friends. They're colleagues, right? They respect each other's work. So Ezra turned around and said, I admire, Ta-Nehisi Coates is a writer I admire, somebody I have a genuine friendship with. In the days after Kirk's murder, he published a piece in Vanity Fair that was pretty harshly critical of what I had written and what he saw as a whitewashing of this man's legacy and role in politics. Coates compared what I was doing there to the whitewashing of the Southern cause after the Civil War. I think it would be the height of hypocrisy for me to say that we need to reach across divides and disagreement, but then not talk across my own. So I wanted to talk to Ta-Nehisi about the piece and the aftermath of Kirk's murder, but also about a disagreement or question that I think is about more than Kirk. There's something very unsettled in the broad coalition of the left around the work of politics, around who we talk to and when and how. When is that work moral? When is it necessary? When is it betrayal? Now, this piece, it is a 68-minute interview. And it is a 68-minute podcast, I should say, and it is up now at the New York Times. I highly, highly recommend folks listening to it. Because in it, Waj, and I want to get your thoughts. It was sent to me by my editor. And she said, I want you to hear this because a lot of the things that Ta-Nehisi is saying, you have said multiple times about the whitewashing, about white moderates, and how they betray justice movements on a regular basis. And, there's one beautiful part at the beginning where Ezra Klein is, talking about why he said what he said. He wanted to be in, connection with these people who had lost, someone that they admired, and that he does not feel like right after there is a murder that you must immediately attack somebody's ideology. Ta-Nehisi Coates says, well, I don't just judge people by how they die. I judge them by how they live. And he says to him, was silence not an option?
Yeah, so that.
And let me say, because that was the academic version of saying, shutting the fuck up is free, right? He says to him, was silence not an option? You did not have to write that piece that essentially turned this man who has spent his entire career spreading hate and violence towards trans people and Black people and lifting him up and giving him like all of this applause. And so they have this really important and thoughtful conversation that to me airs out the danger, the absolute danger that the white moderate poses to any fight for liberation that this country has had and will have in the future. Wash.
So you told me, watch, listen to it. And I was like, Danielle, I'm so tired. So I came home last night. It was 16 minutes. I'm like, Danielle has asked me. I will listen to it. And so I did. Before I say anything, let me just do some quotes. This is a quote from a young man. I think you like this quote. Let me bring it up. I want to quote him directly. This is a quote. I must confess that over the last few years, I've been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Black man's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the KKK, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, quote, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the black man to wait until a, quote, more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. That was Martin Luther King, April 16th, 1963, letter from the Birmingham jail, which he could have written last night.
Literally.
And two quotes from Ta-Nehisi Coates that I think are worth saying from the 68-minute interview, and then I'll end with my analysis of this quote. I think Charlie Kirk was a hate monger. I take no joy in the killing of anyone, no matter what they said. But if you ask me what the truth of his life was, I would have to tell you it's hate. Agreed. People don't listen to you and me. White people love Ta-Nehisi Coates. Maybe they'll listen to him. Another thing that he said is, I'm going to get this quote. I had it right in front of me, and I didn't. He talked about, do you have the quote where he talked about, here, there you go. I guess, and he's talking to Ezra. I guess what I want from you is I want you to take as seriously people who are in the tent, this big tent that Ezra Klein talked about, because his whole thing was just winning elections, by the way. And Ta-Nehisi was like, consequences. And Ezra like, win elections. And Ta-Nehisi goes, but what about the people? Ezra's like, I don't care, win elections. So Ta-Nehisi says, I guess what I want from you is I want you to take as seriously people who are in the tent and who are vulnerable and afraid. And if you have to convince them of something that's extremely, extremely uncomfortable, or tell them that you're taking a position that is extremely uncomfortable, I just think you owe them a little more. That's all I'm saying, man, because they're buddies. So my take on this is the following. I told you so, Danielle, about the white moderates. I've been telling you about Ezra Klein. I know some people who watch me, they love them, their bulwark. I told you about Tim Miller because Ezra and Tim went on each other's podcasts and pretty much said bullshit. I've been telling you about Matt Iglesias, the abundance movement, Third Way, the centrists, the Lisa Slotkins. We've been telling you. And yes, there's a big tent, and inshallah they can evolve. The problem is in this caravan moving forward, Danielle, you know what the Democrats did? They told Ezra Klein, Tim Miller, Matt Iglesias, Liz Cheney, why don't you drive the wheel and run shotgun?
Yep.
Danielle, Wajahat, Mahmoud Khalil, transgender community, Latinos, shut the F up, get in the back, and shut your mouth.
Yep.
Am I wrong here?
No.
And did it help them win? Did it help them win?
No, but I will tell you for folks and I know that we're over time, but I just want to make this point. In the 110th Congress, I was working on Capitol Hill. I was working for Representative Yvette Clarke. And
for who?
For Representative Yvette Clarke.
Oh, gotcha.
And when I was working on Capitol Hill, there was a bill, it was a piece of legislation that was being pushed by Frank, right? You remember him, right? The first openly gay representative of Congress. And he's pushing this bill that is about LGBTQ equality. And in pushing that bill, he decides to pull the T, the transgender community.
I remember that.
From the bill. Because he says, we'll come back for them later. It's too hard to have a conversation and to push legislation around a community that people really can't get their minds around. And I remember being on the Hill, and I am a young person, and I was excited to have this job in this office. And my God, I said, if they take the T out now, they are never coming back.
Nope.
So either you push through the bill with the entire LGBTQ community or you don't push it through. Regardless, it ends up not going. But that I want to use as an example of the compromises that Democrats will do on our backs all the time. So in this example, it was a gay white man saying, nah, the most marginalized of us, the transgender community, let's just exclude them. We'll come back for them later. Right? It was FDR in the New Deal. Let's just take out the Black people and the women from being able to benefit from the New Deal. We'll come back for them later. They always pick who their sacrificial lamb or lambs are going to be. And I tell you, they never come back later. And that to me is what makes me so disgusted, and why, in name right now only, in my paperwork, am I a Democrat? Why I say that I am not repping the Democratic Party anymore. They are the party of sacrificial lambs, meaning that today they say, come into the tent, and tomorrow they use you as the fucking pole.
Amen. And if you all think Danielle isn't speaking the truth, I'll give you one example. I'll leave you with one example. They have kept punting immigration down the line. Now's not the time. And now the border is crossing you in Portland, in Chicago, in LA. That's what you get for punting, for being cowards, for being Republican light, for kicking out Palestinians, Muslims, Black people, transgender people, and immigrants out of your caravan. Told you so. World's worst, I told you so. It's all of us or it's none of us. Fascists come for everyone. Folks, this has been an extra long, juicy version of Democracy-ish. There's 1,800 people watching us right now. There's about 1,400 people watching on my Substack. Please, folks, all real quick, I'm talking to Allison Gill in 3 minutes because, of course, but I want to give a shout out to all these wonderful people who gave us so much money today.
Yeah,
folks, we're independent. We do not take money from anyone. We don't do from everyone. No one. We're terrible capitalists. This will be up later for those who joined us late on Danielle Substack Damn Digest. Go subscribe. Like me, everything is free. This will also be on my Substack, The Left Hook. Everything is free. If you have a few dollars, subscribe to Danielle. If you have a little bit of money left after, subscribe to us. And all these super chatters, thank you so much. This goes a long way. If you're watching on YouTube, you can give us a tip. You know that $ in the heart? This is what it is. You all came through big. Thank you. I will get to feed one of my children. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Ghostface Killer. Old school Wu-Tang reference. Susan, the greatest moderator in the business. Susan coming. Aileen, $20. From Canada, thank you so much. Maureen, Megan, thank you guys. Thank you. The $1, the $2 goes such a long way. The 111, no, it goes a long way. What will stop this madness? The rest of us. You all saw just the last week. The rest of us came together. And guess what? Disney bent the knee. Disney bent the knee.
Thank you so much.
Share. Danielle, how many YouTube subscribers do you have?
Folks, I have hit 32,000 YouTube subscribers. I am so absolutely grateful. Let's make the push to 40,000 subscribers. My goal, if I'm really honest, because they say speak out what you want to the universe, I would love to have 50,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So we have 3 months to get that done. Share, spread the word, like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm fairies, spread this, share this on your platforms, all over your platforms. We appreciate you guys. We will be back on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Substack. Go watch Waj now with Allison on his Substack. Waj promises us that he will take a break at some point, and let's hold him to that. Folks, I will see you tonight right back here at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Danielle Moody Show. Take care of yourselves. Be good and don't be a fascist. Bye.